Hello and welcome to ATech. My name is Akshay and we are back with the new part of this tutorial series, that is C# tutorial for beginners. Okay, so in today's tutorial we will discuss what is class and struct in C#. So we will see class in C#, struct in C#, garbage collection in C#, difference between class and struct. Okay, so first of all, see what is class. A class is a nullable, user definable reference type which provides a structure for object creation. Now what does that mean? So first of all, it is a nullable, user definable reference type. Now in the previous tutorial of this series, we have learned about what are all the types in C#. Okay, so at that time I have told you that the types are broadly divided into two parts, that is value type and reference type, and also there is one category that is user definable type and built-in type. So a class is a user definable, means we can define the class as well as it is a reference type. Okay, and what is nullable? So we can store null value to that type, so that is a nullable type, and we have discussed that also in previous tutorials of this series. So if you guys not aware of that, then please check that video out first. Okay, so in order to understand this better, now coming back to this video, the second point, what it says, object is an instance of a class. Now maybe you guys might be hearing this for the hundredth of time, that object is an instance of a class, but what does that really means? First of all, instance is nothing but a occurrence, that is a single occurrence of something. Okay, so let me give one example. Let's consider a man is a class. Okay, and now if you want to create an object of that man, then that object will contain, if we talk about one example, that is, we know a man can be a father, man can be a brother, man can be a son, as well as at the same time he can be a husband. Okay, so he can have many instances, but every time, every instance is a single occurrence, because he can be only son, he can be a single father, he cannot have many instances of a father. Okay, so that is the difference. Okay, so that's how we can say an object is an instance of a class. Okay, and we will see again in a that everything in an action, so don't worry about that. We will be very much clear after this tutorial, that what is a class and what is object. Okay, and now third point, what it says, class can have fields, properties, methods, constructor, destructor, etc. So everything that we will be discussing in today's tutorial, so don't worry about that. And you can see it can have fields, methods, and properties, and constructors and destructors. Okay, so we will be discussing everything in today's tutorial, but this methods, everything that is properties, properties, field, etc., we will be discussing them in a very great detail in our later video, so don't worry about that. But we will see what are they in a very brief, so don't worry about that. So first of all, let's see class in an action. Okay, so for that, let's just switch to Visual Studio. Okay, now here it is a simple console application. The same example we have been using since our first tutorial. So because there is no need to create any other application other than this console application, because it will be very simple to understand on a console application what are all this functionality, what are all these concepts are as a beginner. So that is why I am using this console application. Okay, but we will be discussing and we will be creating many more applications, many more kind of application in our later videos, in our later sessions, so don't worry about that. But for now, coming back to our point, that what is a class. Okay, so as I have said, that class can have fields, can have methods, can have constructor, destructor, everything we will see. Okay, so for that, let me just take one class here. Let me take a class, and I will name that class as a student. Okay, let's say we will take an example of a student. There is one student class, and we will make that public. Now we have not yet discussed what is the public access modifier, private access modifier yet, so don't worry about that. We will be talking in a very great detail. So what are all these public access modifier, private access modifier, and all other access modifiers like internal protected as well, so don't worry about that. But for now, just focus on this class thing. Okay, so we know in that class we can have private fields. Okay, something like this. Let's say student can have name. Okay, and we have to take a data type, that is string. Okay, we know student can have age. Okay, sorry, age, and data type will be int. Okay, so and we choose this data type very carefully because we know this age will every time be a whole number. Okay, so it will not be a decimal. We don't say ever that this man is a 20.5 years old. Okay, so that way, if that is so, but we use date of birth for that. Okay, and from that we can calculate that okay, this he is 5 years and something months old. Okay, but generally we take age as a int, as a whole number, because we commonly say that this man is a 20 years old, this girl is a 20 years old. Okay, so that is why. So just choose wisely whatever data type you are using with the kind of variable you are using. Okay, so I am using this private int age. Okay, now let's just say student can have roll number. Okay, int roll number. Okay, and now these are the fields I am using, and with the private access modifier. Now don't just worry about what is this access modifier, why we are using private. Just keep in mind that if you define this as a private, then it will not be reachable outside this scope, that is outside this class. That is, someone cannot access this field outside this class. Okay, so that is why, and we will talk about them, so don't worry why we keep them as a private, so don't worry about that. And also we can have methods in our class. Okay, like this. Let's just have one method that will print a name, maybe. Okay, name of a student. Let's say he has a first name, like this, first name. Let's say we have fields like first name and last name. Okay, so and let's just have one method, that is which will print full name of that student. Okay, so and it will return nothing, so it will directly print that name. So that is why I'm taking this return type as a void. But don't worry about that also. I'm just I will be explaining all these things as well, that is what is return type, so what is the arguments, what are the methods, so we will be discussing in a very great detail. Just don't worry about them for now. Okay, print full name will be the method name, and what we will do, we will just print full name of a student. And now before that, let me have one constructor. Now what are constructors, we will see. So constructor will be having same name as of a class name, and they can be defined something like this. Okay, so access modifier, the name which is same as the class name, and a parenthesis and a two curly braces. So that is how we define any constructor. Now why constructors are needed? They are needed to initialize these fields. So how we will see them, so don't worry about that. Let me just take one constructor which will take this first name and last name as a parameter. Okay, so we know we can take something like this. Let's say I am taking first name and another, that is last name. So don't worry about this. I will be explaining all this, and this will all be clear to you guys, so don't worry. Let me just take this. Okay, first name equal to, that is this first name equal to whatever coming in this constructor that we are storing in our fields. Okay, so that is the reason, nothing else. And last name, which is this, equal to last name which is coming in this constructor. Okay, and now as I have told you that constructors are used to initialize our fields. So what does that means, and when the constructor gets invoked, so that I will show you, don't worry about that. But for now, just keep in mind one another thing, And I want to tell you guys that there are three types of constructor that we can have in C#. Okay, that is one. So I will show you. As you can see here, there are three types of constructor. That is one, that is default constructor. Second, that is parameterless constructor. Third, that is parameterized constructor. So now we will see one by one what are they. So as you can read here, what the default constructor says, compiler provides this constructor in absence of any other constructor. Parameterless constructor, a class can have constructor with no argument or zero argument. And third, that is parameterized constructor, class can have constructor with one or more parameters. So what all these things I will show you in action, so don't worry. Now whatever this constructor we have just defined in this class, it is called as parameterized constructor. The constructor with one or more than one parameter, that is called as parameterized constructor. And we can define a constructor like this as well. If I don't take this field here, something like this. Now this is also a constructor but with no argument, that is with no parameter. So zero argument constructor, that is parameterless constructor we also called as. Now what is default constructor? Now let me tell you one thing. If I don't provide any constructor here, if I comment this out, if class doesn't provide any constructor, then in absence of that constructor, the compiler will always provide one constructor which is implicitly provided by compiler, and that is called as a default constructor. Okay, and that will, everything will be clear to you guys, so don't worry. Just see what this program will does by taking this parameterized constructor. Okay, so I will show you that. String first name and string last name, like this. Okay, and now what we will do, we will come inside this static void main method. Now why we start our code from here, that also we have discussed in a very first tutorial of this series. So if you guys don't aware why we start coding here, or what is the purpose of this static void main method in the program, so for that just check that video out. So what I will do here, I will create an object of this class. So now we will see how we create an object of a class. Okay, so for that I will take that class name, that is student, and I will find that in IntelliSense here. Okay, student, and any variable. So this is nothing but a variable. You can take it as anything you want. This is just a variable of type this class. Now let me tell you another thing, that we know we have been using types such as int, such as string, or all the built-in types. So those are very simple types. This class also called as a complex type. So if you want to store more data other than the only age, only name, so if you want to store all this data combinedly and store into one specific type, so it is your type. So class is a complex type. It is able to store that complex types, that complex data. So if you want to store any customer information, if you want to store any student information for any application, so these are the complex types that we can use. Okay, so now this is how we can create a object. Okay, I have take the student, a variable equal to, and now as soon as I type this new, okay, and the student parenthesis complete, as soon as I type this new, this constructor will get called. Okay, so that is the procedure. Every time you create an object like this, as soon as you type this new, the constructor gets called. As well as what it does, compiler allocates the memory for this object of yours on the managed heap. Now what is managed heap, I have told you in my previous video. If you don't aware about that, just check that video out for the very great detail. But I will tell you, whatever object of this reference types we create, that gets stored onto the heap, and we also call them as a managed heap in a .NET. Okay, so as soon as this new operator is we have created, what it does, it will invoke this constructor, as well as compiler will allocate a memory for your object onto the heap. So we will see that. So don't worry. Now what is this error is? This is giving us an error, that is because we have provided one constructor by ourselves, that is this parameterized constructor. So let me tell you one another thing. If you provide, or if a class provides one constructor, then compiler will not provide any default constructor. So that is what that is the way of working with that, working with classes. Okay, so now I have to pass that first name and last name. Okay, so you know that I have take this constructor here, which is taking these two parameters, that is first name and last name, and which are getting stored into our fields that we have taken here, that is first name and last name. So now I will take first name as Akshay and second as Borj. Okay, and now what I will do, I will call, now we know this is our object, this student is our object, because we have stored that new student is in this variable. So now this is our object, that is student object, and we know this object is of type this student. So if you put dot in front of that, so whatever in that class you will be able to access using this object, because you have created that instance of this class. So that is why this instance is able to access the properties, the methods that are present in this class. Okay, so now if I put dot, and you will find the print full name method that we have defined in this class like this. And what will, so I have to define that correctly. So what it will do, it will take that first name plus last name like this, and I want one space between those first name and last name. So that is why I will do something like this. And we know this is nothing but a string concatenation, so that we have also learned in this tutorial series. Okay, and now what I will do, I will invoke this method from this instance, using this instance of that type student. And now what I will do, I will invoke this method, and what I will do, I will print this. So we will see what happens. Okay, so it is giving us the full name, that is Akshay Borje. So now if you have understand what is the class and what is the object and why we create object and when the constructor gets called, so there is also another functionality that class can have, which we call as a destructor. Okay, so what destructors are? Destructors are nothing but, destructors also has the same name as of a class name, but what is the difference? They have a tilt in front of that. They have a tilt in front of them. Okay, like this. So this is our destructor, but this doesn't require any access modifier. Okay, how I will show you. If I try to put this public in front of that student, till student, it will give us an error. What it says, the modifier public is not valid for this item. Okay, so destructor, they don't need any access modifier, but they also have a same name as of your class name, like a constructor. But what the purpose destructors are used for? They are used for destroying your object as soon as your objects are no longer reachable from the reference variables. So what does that mean? So we know whenever we create a new object like this, the objects gets allocated, the memory for objects gets allocated on the heap. So let me show you that. Okay, so this is the same example we have used at the time when I have told you about boxing and unboxing, that is I have explained you about boxing and unboxing. So just consider object we have just created that is stored onto this heap, that is this heap memory. But we know, and I have told you in my previous video or one of my previous videos, that actually what happens, there is a reference variable always be on a stack only, and there is only a reference variable and actual object which that reference variable is pointing, that object will be on heap. So in a simple word, the variable will always be on a stack, and that variable will be having an address of an actual object which is present on this heap. So now as soon as these objects are no longer reachable from this stack, So that is the time we know we have to deallocate the memory of this object and we have to destroy this object. So that is why destructors are used to destroy this object. Okay, now let me give you one simple example. If you guys are confused, so when exactly this object will no longer be reachable, so I will give you one example, so don't worry about that. So what I will do, I will just go back to Visual Studio. Now let me tell you something before that also. Objects, we have to destroy them explicitly, but whatever gets stored on stack, we don't have to worry about destroying these variables, or we don't need to worry about deallocating those things, because whatever gets stored on stack, they gets destroyed automatically. The memory gets destroyed automatically as soon as they are no longer in a scope of that whatever functionality. So as soon as the method returns, the calling method returns, the scope get destroyed, and the variables that are stored on stack, that is memory occupied on stack, are automatically get destroyed. So I will give you example for that. So what I meant to say, we know whatever process, anything, if it is in execution, it will comes in a RAM, and that RAM will manage that execution, and as soon as your execution stops, the everything that will be on a RAM, it will be removed from RAM. So that is how the stack memory gets deallocated as soon as RAM is cleared. Okay, so let me give you one example. If I run this project like this, we know we are executing this project like this. We are showing this console output onto this console. So we can say this is a process in execution. Now this process will be in a RAM. So now if I close this, so as soon as I close this, the execution stops, and everything that were in the RAM, it is get removed from the RAM, and that is how stack's memory get deallocated automatically. So whatever we know, stack is nothing but whenever there is a process on RAM, the stack manage that memory. So that is why stacks get destroyed automatically. But in contrast, the objects that are get stored on heap, we have to destroy them explicitly. Now I will tell you that why. So if you guys have understand this phenomena, we know now objects are stored here, but the variable that have the reference of this object are on stack, and as soon as the process stops executing, the RAM is cleared, this stack memory, we know the stack memory will be cleared, and the object and the variable that was holding the reference of this object also get cleared. So now there is no reference for this object. These objects are no longer reachable. So that's it. So that in that case, there is a memory leak operation. There is a memory leak. There is a wastage of this memory. So that is why we have to destroy objects explicitly, and that was destructor does in our class. So, but again, in C#, object creation and destruction, we don't worry about that, because that is all managed by CLR in .NET. So what is CLR? I have told you, I have explained you that in my .NET framework tutorial. If you don't aware about that, just check that video out, and link you will find in the description of this video below. So coming back to this video now, CLR managed the destruction and creation of the object in .NET. That is why we don't need to worry about destruction of object, and that is why this part is optional. If you don't create a destructor, anyway CLR will manage the destruction of your object when it is no longer reachable. But how? There is one entity in the CLR that is called as garbage collector. So now you will see what is garbage collection. If you can see here, the garbage collection is a phenomena or the process of deallocating the memory occupied by objects on a managed heap is called as garbage collection in C#. Now garbage collection is managed by CLR in .NET for managed code, and C# being a managed code language does not need to worry about garbage collection, which is implicit in .NET. Okay, so that's what I have explained just now. Garbage collector comes with CLR, or they resides in a CLR and destroy objects during garbage collection cycle from managed heap when objects are no longer reachable. So that's what I have shown you. That's what I have explained you just now. And we know, and I have told you in my .NET Framework tutorial itself, that whenever you install .NET on your machine, two very important things get installed on your computer, that is framework class library and a CLR, and that CLR contains this garbage collector as well as JIT compiler. So, and I have explained all these things to you guys. So okay, in that video, if you want to know about this thing in a very great detail, so just check that video out and you will find the description of that C# that .NET Frameworks tutorial in the description of this video tutorial. So check that out. And coming back to this video, now we have understood what is garbage collection and why we need to destroy objects. Okay. Now I have told you, I have shown you on the slide of that class definition that it can have fields, it can have methods like this, it can have constructor and destructor, which is optional in C#. So again, there were one phenomena, that is we can have properties as well. Now what is properties in a very great detail we will be learning in a later videos of this session, later videos of this tutorial series, but for now I will give you one example. So this is your property which will always be public. Now implicitly what happens, this whenever we want to initialize our fields, we keep these private fields inside these public properties, and that's how we expose them to the user to initialize those fields. Why? Because of the abstraction, because of encapsulation. And what is abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, that all the four pillars, that is also polymorphism, all the four pillars of OOPS concept, that is OOP concept, that we will be learning in a very great detail in this tutorial series. So don't worry about that. But for that matter, we always expose these public properties and we keep them private fields inside this public property. So how, I will show you. Now just don't worry about what is this get and set for now. I will show you. So instead of using these private fields like this, what we can do, we can have, instead of exposing these private fields like this, what we can do, we can keep these private fields inside these public properties like this. Okay, so if you want to set, sorry, we have to just take this first name. If you want to set this property, what I can do, first name is equal to value. So whatever value that will be coming, that I want to store into this private field like this. And okay, so let me make that property as a string, because we know this string, and let me give that property a name, that is first name, like this. Okay, and this is how you are setting this property, and you have to return that property something like this. In a get accessor, what you have to do, return that property like this. Okay, so this is nothing but your property. This is the public property in which you are keeping these private fields and setting them and getting them. That is what you are returning your property, you are returning your fields. So for now, just don't worry what is this property and why I have done something like this in a very starting, that is something like this. This is also a property. You can define property like this as well. This is called as an auto implemented property. So what this property is doing, same like this property is doing, but in a single line, or what you can say, this is auto implemented property. We can do something like this as well. If I take this string and the property name is last name. Okay, so this is also you can define your property. This is the auto implemented property which we are introducing in C# 3.0. So don't worry about them, we will be discussing in a very great detail in our later videos, but for now just understand we can have fields, properties, methods, constructor and destructor in our class. Okay, like this. And if I take my object, if I use my object to initialize this property something like this, so that also I can do. If I say first name is equal to atake and student dot last name is equal to AIT like this. So that is also what you can do. You can keep those private fields inside this public property, and now what this public property will do, it will keep this value and store that into your private field. But auto implemented property does that in an implicit fashion. So we don't need to worry about creating this much code, this much thing. Okay. Okay, so that is a name that I have defined here, here itself wrong. Okay, so I have to make that last name. Okay. Now, is there a only way to create your object? No, I have told you we have three types of constructors in our class. We can have three types of a constructor. So now you do something like this, or what you can do, you don't need to worry about creating this constructor in your class, because I have told you if you don't provide any constructor, the compiler will provide one constructor, and that will be a default constructor, and now compiler will take care of initializing your fields, your properties, whatever the properties that are present in your class. So you can do something like that, as well as what you can do, you can take that object dot your property and you can initialize them something like this. Now again there is another way to creating your object. So what you can do, you can take another object of same type, okay, but different instance. Okay, I have told you this is a single occurrence of that class, this is another single occurrence of that class. So that is our object, that is our instance. Okay, so student1 is equal to new student, and you can do something like this. You will find your properties here. First name equal to Akshay and last name equal to Dorji. This is also a way you can define your object. Okay, so now if you understand what is class, what is object, why constructor gets called, so all these things are same in a struct as well. So we will see what is struct. Okay, and we will see differences between them, so don't worry about that. Okay, so struct is a non-nullable user definable value type that can create a structure for fields, methods, properties, etc. Same like a class, and can have object to instantiate all these members. But struct can have constructor but cannot have destructor. So that is the difference between structure and class. And there are many more differences. We will discuss them. So, but this is a very important difference between struct and class, because struct can have a constructor but cannot have destructor. So, but why is that so? So I will tell you that we know the destructors are used to destroy objects from managed heaps that are no longer reachable. But we know, as this definition suggests us, struct is a non-nullable user definable value type, not a reference type. Okay, keep in mind, if you have recollect from my types in C# tutorial video, in that I have told you this struct falls under the category of a value type. So it is a value type, and having said that, value types get stored on stack and not on a heap. So we know object creation, destruction, or we can say memory allocation and deallocation is automatic on a stack. We don't need to worry about that. So that is why we don't need destructor for the struct. That makes very much sense. Okay, we don't need destructor because there are no objects on managed heap. Okay, so that is why. Now let's have an example of a struct. Okay, so it will be clear. It will all be clear to you guys. So don't worry. And for that, let me just make a simple change. Instead of this class, I will make this as a struct, and nothing more than that. And you will find there is no error it is giving us. And if I run this, let me just get rid of this code here, because it is I don't want to make changes to this first initialization. Okay, and I will tell you that what I mean by that. Okay, so don't worry. because that was referring a same object. So don't worry about that. I will tell you what this means, what I'm talking about. But just let's see this. And before that, what I want to do, because we know now we have taken this properties instead of those fields. So that is why one small change I want to make here. That is, I have to take property here, something like this, and here as well. Okay, now we are good to go, and I will run this. Okay, it is giving us a full name, ATech and AIT ABT. So then, what is the difference between struct and constructor, apart from the one thing that I have already shown you, that the struct cannot have a destructor? So what is the difference between the struct and class? So that we will see. Okay, so as you can see, it is one table here, that is, which says what are the differences between struct and class. So what is the first point? It can define a non-nullable managed type which supports passing by value, and in contrast, class, it can define a nullable managed type which supports passing by reference. Now what does that mean? Let's just check that out. Okay, firstly, what it says, struct, that is, it can define a non-nullable managed type which supports passing by value. So we will see that. Now we know, and we have learned that in a previous video as well, we know value type cannot have a null value. For that to store a null value, we have to make that a nullable type by using that question mark. But we know this student is a structure. Now the student is a structure, and which is a value type. Now in this value type, if you try to store, let's say, this student variable of type struct, if you are trying to store null here, it will give us an error right there itself. What it says, cannot convert null to student because it is a non-nullable value type. So that's what that first point says. And again, what it says, it is only allowed passing by value. So what does that mean? I will show you. Let me take. So let me correct that. We know we have created this object, and let me take another object. Okay, student. Let me make that as bigger because that is a variable. Okay, student 1 equal to, and now what I will do, I will just pass this object to this variable of type structure. That is, basically, we have created two objects. First, we have created this object, and we have passed that object to another. I have just copied that object to another. Now just carefully see what I will do. Okay, now we know we have already done something like this, student dot first name, student dot last name. We have initialized this properties. Now what I will do, whatever that second object we have created, that is by passing this first object to that, what I will do, student 1 dot, because we know it will also have properties, because this is also object, and at this time what I will do, I will store it here Akshay, and I will store here my last name, that is Borje, B-O-R-J-E. Okay, and now what I will do, and I have called this method from student, that is print full name. So I have to call another method from student 1 object as well to show these fields. Okay, to show full name of these fields. Okay, so that's how. And now what I will do, I will run this. Okay, and now if you have seen, it is printing ATech AITBT, that is first object creation, and this is second object creation, that is Akshay Borje. But now if I make this structure as a class, what it will do, just see that carefully. If I run this, now if you guys see here, it is printing both the time Akshay Borje. So now why is that so? So that is called as call by value and call by reference. So I will show you that. Now just carefully see here that we know value type gets stored on the stack, and objects get stored on the heap, that is basically reference type. Now we know whatever object we have just created, that was first a struct type, that is a value type. So what we have done, we have created object of this value type, that is struct type, and that variable and variable 1, we have created that object, and we have stored that variable 1. Actually it should be something like this. Here it should be VB2 and here it should be VB1. So that is my mistake, but just ignore that. That is not a very big mistake. So we have created this object and we have stored that into VB1. Now we have stored this VB1 to this VB2, and now what it does, it have passed that object by value, means a fresh copy, a duplicate copy of that object, that is that object to VB2. So now this VB1 is pointing to a different object, and this VB2 is also pointing to a new copy, that is a duplicate copy, that is a separate copy, that copy of object. So now whatever your operation performs, whatever operation you perform in this object, that will not affect that object, that will not affect that VB2, and vice versa. But in the case of call by reference, that is this, now when I have created that object with the help of class, that is reference type, and I have passed that variable, I have passed that object to that VB2. So it is again, here it is also a mistake, it should be VB2 and here it should be VB1. Okay, so just ignore that, and I have passed that object to this VB2, but at this time what reference type does, they pass value by reference. Now both these variable are pointing to same object on the heap. So again, in a simple word, both these variables having a same address of a same object that are on the heap. So that is why whoever from these two makes a changes to this object, that will reflect on both of these. So, and that what you have seen here. When I have run this, now we know this is a class type. So that is why it is printing both time Akshay Borje, because we know we have created this object of reference type, we have passed that to another, but this copy, this passing is by reference type. So now both this variable of type this reference type, both this variable of this reference type are pointing to same object on, and that is why when this second object have initialized this first name, that have changed that a take with this Akshay, and the change that is affected here as well, that is last name is changed by this Borje by this second object. So that is what call by reference and call by value as well, and that is what this first point says, that is it can define a non-nullable managed type which supports passing by value. In contrast, it can define a nullable managed type which supports passing by reference. And now to show you that reference type can store null value, what I will do, I will try to pass null here, and it will not give us any error, like this. Okay, so it is not giving us any compile time error. Just at runtime it will print nothing, that object will be null, but it is not giving us any error. If you see here, this is a class, this is a reference type, and they allows a nullable type. Okay, so like this. So that's what that first difference is. Okay, and what second point says, memory allocation is automatic for its instance, makes new keyword optional, and then it is only used for initialization. And in contrast, in class, memory allocation is explicit on a managed it for its instance using new keyword which also performs initialization. Now what does that mean? I will show you. Now I have already told you, structs are value type. Let me make that struct again. Now we know this is a struct, that is a value type, and we know value types get stored on stack. So that is why this new keyword is optional. If you don't put that new here, means something like this, that doesn't mean that memory will not get allocated for this object, because we know these are value type and they get stored on stack. So that is why new keyword is optional, but that new keyword will be only used to initialize our fields, because I have told you, as soon as you type this new, the constructor gets called, and that constructor is responsible for initializing these fields. And if you don't pass any constructor, if a class don't provide any constructor, the compiler will have a default constructor, and that will be implicit. Okay, now what third point says, its locally identified instance is automatically gets deallocated immediately after its allocating method returns. Okay, and in contrast, what class says, its locally identified instance is gets deallocated automatically during next garbage collection cycle. Okay, so that is the same thing I have told you in a very starting, that garbage collection is needed to destroy objects on a managed heap, but in construct value type are gets stored on stack, which are gets automatically destroyed whenever variable goes out of scope. Okay, so that's what it says. And what is fourth point, that is its instance fields are directly identified, making their access faster. And what is fourth point, its instance fields are always identified through an indirection, making their access slower. Now this is the same point I have told you, I have explained you at the time when I have explained you value type and reference types as well. So this is nothing different, and I will show you that. Okay, so if you recollect, when we have learned differences between value type and reference type, in that there were one point, that is this second point, they are faster to access because no multiple indirection is there, and second, that is reference types are slower to access due to multiple indirection. Now I have told you, this value type gets stored on stack. If you want to access them, variable is here and the value is also here. But if you want to access this object, variable is here and it is only holding the address of that object. Now if you want to access this object, you have to go like this, first to this variable and then to this object. But in case of value type, they are both this thing, that is variable and value, are present on this stack, so there is a faster access in comparison to this access. Okay, so that's what this point is saying. Its instance fields are directly identified, making their access faster, and in contrast they are slower to access. Okay, and what fifth point says, if struct doesn't provide a constructor, then compiler will provide a default constructor, and if struct provides a constructor which parameterized, then compiler will also provide a default constructor. Now this might be very confusing, but don't worry, and this is a very interesting point. I will explain you that, so don't worry. In contrast, what class says, if a class doesn't provide a constructor, then compiler will provide a default constructor, and if a class provides a parameterized constructor, then compiler will not provide a default constructor. So what this point says, don't worry, I will explain you. Just look at in here. Okay, now let's make this as a class. Okay, now what I will do, I will take one constructor here. Okay, and how that we can take, just the same name as of our class name. Okay, like this, and I will make that as a parameterized constructor. And what I will do, I will initialize those properties, because now we know we have a property, so that's why we can do something like this as well. Instead of initializing properties fields directly, we can initialize those properties, and the fields will automatically get initialized. So that is a part of encapsulation, so don't worry about that for now. I will tell you that also, but just focus on this concept, and we will see all these concepts in our later video, so don't worry. And now if I go here in a program, in a main method, so if you can see here, as soon as I have typed this new and constructor gets invoked, we know, but what it says, there is a no argument given that correspond to the required formal parameter first name of student string. So what does that means? As soon as you create one parameterized constructor in your class, then constructor will no longer be responsible, or we can say constructor will not provide any default constructor. So that is why it is throwing an error, because your constructor is parameterized, so you have to pass both these parameters here, and this time constructor will not provide any default constructor. But in contrast, if this would have been struck instead of class, then compiler is able to define a default constructor even if the struct is having one parameterized constructor. Okay, so how? I will show you that. And as soon as you do so, and as soon as you have done that, if you can see, there is no error here. That is what it says. This fifth point: if a struct doesn't provide a constructor, then compiler will provide default constructor anyway. And if a struct provides constructor which is parameterized, and why it is parameterized, I will show you that also. If it is parameterized, then compiler will also provide a default constructor. But in case of class, if a class has a parameterized constructor, then compiler will know, then compiler will not provide any default constructor. And now, why this parameterized constructor only struct can have, I will show you that. First, I will make that as a class, okay? And now, why this field is giving an error, I will show you that also. I will tell you that also. As soon as I make this class, this error will be gone. And why? Because in struct, this field we are setting after we get any value through this property, because it is not set yet. So that is why we cannot have it directly in this constructor. It is only in the struct. Class doesn't give us any error. Class are okay that we are setting that property, setting that fields inside this property, and we are taking that into this constructor. But in the case of structure, it finds first that if it is initialized first. Okay, so that is so that's why it was giving us error. Now coming back to our point, that struct can have only parameterized constructor and not zero argument constructor. If I do something like this, it will give us an error, because it is a class, it is not giving. I will make that struct, okay, and as soon as I make that struct, it is giving us an error. And what it says: struct cannot contain explicit parameterless constructors. Okay, so why is that so? Because there is no point of providing a zero argument constructor to the struct, which we know gets stored on stack, because being a value type, and there is no need of destroying object as well. And we know memory is anyway getting allocated to the struct even before you are creating that new operator, which is only used for initialization. Then there is no sense of creating this no argument. Then there is no sense of creating this no argument, that is zero argument constructor in this struct. So that is why they don't allow zero argument struct, but only allow a default constructor or a parameterized constructor like this: string and if I last name is equal to last name, let me make that last name. Okay, so that is the same error I have told you, because struct don't allow these properties to initialize before fields gets initialized into those properties. Okay, so that is why what I will do, I will take first name, that is property here, instead of that I will take first name which is field we have in this struct instead of that properties. Okay, so like this I will make that first name, and I will have string last name, and let me take that another field and let me assign that last name to this, like this. Okay, and let me comment these fields here. Okay, because we are not using this, so So that is, and let me correct that also. Okay, and also let me comment this properties here. Okay, because it will give us the same error. Okay, I will show you that. If I build this being a struct, this will throw this error: auto implemented property student last name must be fully assigned before control is returned to the caller. Okay, so that is the same reason I have told you. So if I comment this, because auto implemented, in case of auto implemented properties as well, this field will not get fully assigned first, and before that we are assigning them in this constructor as well. So that is why. And if I as soon as I have commented that error gone. And also, if you have carefully seen, this is not giving us any error. It is allowing us to have this parameterized constructor, but it will not allow us to do something like this. So that is why they don't allow a parameter with no argument in the struct, but in class it will be no problem like this. Okay, and don't worry, I am repeating again. We will be discussing them in a very great detail, so don't worry about that. But just for this class and object concept and struct concept, just focus on this video only. Okay, so that's where all the struct and class differences. Now, if you have carefully seen, when we have discussed the differences between value type and reference type, these differences are nothing but somewhat similar to these differences. Why? Because ultimately struct is a value type and a class is a reference type, but these differences are somewhat specific to this struct and a class. Okay, so that is why I have told you, and that is why I have explained them. But these value type and reference types are also the differences between class and between structure. And if you guys recollect from my video, at that time I have told you, I have explained you only these 4 points. And when I have explained you what is boxing and unboxing, at that time I have explained you this point as well. That is fifth point. But we have left with the 6th point at that time. Now you know what is constructor, what is object and class, so you will be more able to understand what this point means. That is what this difference is. So what it says, they does not permit definition of a parameterless constructor. They permits definition of a parameterless constructor. So that is what the same thing I have just explained you. That is this value type. That is in case of struct. So struct is also a value type. So struct was not allowing a constructor which is having no parameter, that is parameterless constructor. So that was at that time that was giving us error. But in case of reference type, that is class is an example, and that we have just seen. So they were permitting the definition of a parameterless constructor. Okay, so that's what the difference between value type and reference type, and difference between struct and a class. So let's just quickly see the summary. What it says, class is a blueprint for object creation and is a reference type which user can define. Object is an instance of a class. So that also we have seen. Blueprint is nothing but its class can have a structure for object creation. That means it can have methods, fields, properties, etc., etc. Second, struct is a non-nullable user definable value type and can create a structure for object creation. Okay, so that way also we have seen. Garbage collection is managed by CLR in .NET, which takes care of object destruction or deallocating the memory occupied by the object when they are no longer reachable. That also we have seen at the time when we have learned about the garbage collection. The only difference between struct and value type creating structures, apart from one being value type and other being reference type, is that struct can have destructor, unlike class, because struct are stored on stack and object gets destroyed as soon as calling method returns. So that was the same thing I have told you, I have explained you, that in case of struct we don't need destructor because variables because the value types get stored directly onto the stack, and we don't need to explicitly destroy those memory, those objects, those variables. Okay, and that's it for today's video tutorial. We will meet in our next part of this tutorial series, and till then, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe this channel, like the video, share this video with the beginners who are struggling to know about what is classes, what is objects in a very great detail. So for that, just share this video with them, and also feel free to comment in the comment section below if you guys don't aware If you guys don't understand anything, just let me know and I will make video on that too if you have any doubt. So till then, stay tuned and thank you.